Oh, come on. This is where it gets interesting now. Let's see what he's got left in him. There we go. Come on.
Yeah.
Up.
Is there some magical synergy between the two? Not like let's say insulin and growth hormone? No. But can you prolong a good, solid insulin sensitivity blood sugar level while using copious amounts of GH? Absolutely. So that's where the synergy is, I guess, is that it'll allow you to continue using higher dosages of growth hormone.
No, just like you said, Scott, there are so many other options that it just doesn't even make sense to use it. And yet I go, well, I don't want anybody asking me about a drug that I haven't used. I've always prided myself on that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you advice or tell you, oh, well, I've never used that compound before. So I thought I used it. And it worked well until it didn't.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Skip Hill, Andrew Berry, myself, Scott McNally, and we are brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for additional savings, high-quality, third-party tested supplements. They've got all your basics, everything you need from literally like every protein powder under the sun, creatine, intra-workout. You can get the Team Skip blend over there, which is a great protein blend. And, somebody asked me, is their flavoring real strong? Because I don't like strong flavored protein. You can go like light, normal, or heavy. So you can choose how much flavoring you want and pick which flavor you want for each protein. We're also brought to you by supplementsource.ca. They have great deals that change week to week for Canadians. So they'll have something that's like close dated or label changed, and you might get a pre-workout for like $15. We're also, of course, brought to you by you guys. Thank you very much for your support over at Patreon. We do have a slew of Patreon questions today. I've got a Q&A that runs over there. You guys load us up, we'll knock them out. So to start us up, guys, we have a freaking ton of questions, Andrew. Like, we are loaded. We're locked and loaded today, man.
Well, before we get to the questions, though, I want, you're the only Blood, Sweat, and Gear member that went to the Arnold. I want to know how to go, what'd you do, who'd you see, and then I got a couple questions about the actual show. So give us a little rundown, how'd it go?
Dude, first of all, I have to tell you, so I met a ton of listeners, which was incredible, right? I met more listeners at this show than I have at any show previous that I've ever been to. So it tells me the show's doing good. All the podcasts are doing well. And I asked everybody, I was like, hey, what's your favorite program on the network? And I got a lot of people saying Blood, Sweat, and Gear. So thought you guys would feel good.
Ron just texted me and said that you said it's just bodybuilding.
Depends on the show. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's all drugs and stuff, Dave. They all listen to drugs and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I did though, which is really cool. It's cool to see that the show is doing well. Man, so many of our listeners came out. It was freaking awesome to be there. The Arnold was popping. There were a lot of people. Friday and Saturday were super busy. Sunday was laid back, as you would expect. I didn't go to prejudging. We had like a team dinner. We went to a really nice steakhouse. I think it was called like Hyde Park. Oh man, it was literally one of the best steaks I've had in my life. So that was fun. But then we did go to the night show, and we had really good seats too. Like, we were right up there. So
looked like we did. Yeah,
it was solid, man. It was solid.
So, there's always the question, or, everybody's an expert when they're sitting on their couch or they're on their phone watching, and they're, oh, he should have won, or this should have happened, or this guy's out of shape. So give us a take, because you saw it in person, and then I'm sure you were also at the same time towards the end of the night looking at your phone and kind of rehashing it. What we saw on the screen as viewers at home, did that match what you saw in the audience? Like,
I'm glad you brought that up, man, because here's what I noticed. So I think it was deserved, first of all. I think that with Derek, dude, I think that Derek was lights out. This show, first of all, and I'm not just saying this like just because I was there. You know how you can get kind of hyped on a contest because you were there personally?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, Andrew, I've been to probably 8-10 Arnolds now. This, as a bodybuilding contest, period, it may have been the overall best contest I have ever gone to. And I'm not saying that to exaggerate. You know how like we're always like, oh, well, if this guy comes in shape, he'll be good. And we have this in our head. Like, almost everybody brought it, dude. Like, almost everybody was freaking peeled. And of course, it wasn't across the board. I mean, I'm rooting for Carlos Thomas Jr. to be able to pull that conditioning in harder next time, and I know he can do it. I think he just needs a little bit more time. I think he's doing New York, but and when he nails it, man, look the hell out, But I'm talking like everybody in the top placings, dude, like everybody was fucking nails. Derek was crazy. Yeah. Now with Samson, best Derek ever, first of all, like literally best Derek ever. And Samson looked good at finals. And I will say this, he improved through the show. By the end of the show, he was at the best he had been through the whole night. Like by the end, he was drying out, looking harder, but he wasn't hard enough. That said, so we do this wrap up, right? And then I head back to the room after that, and I'm like, I gotta get this edited, and literally the show is fresh in my mind. I'm pulling video clips, dropping them in the computer to overlay them while we're talking, and I'm gonna tell you, man, it was substantially harder to see the difference between Samson and Derek in the video. Like I was taken back because I was like, oh, when people see this, they're gonna really see what I saw. But then when I looked at it, I was like, oh man. And I do a lot of videos, so I have an eye for it. And I was like, just looking at this show looks way closer on the screen than it did in real life.
Yeah. I happened to catch Dave Palumbo interviewing Steve, the head judge, after the show, and he asked him, like, what was it that made you guys go with Derek? And he kind of said something that seemed a little odd to me. He said that it was neck and neck on Friday, and then Derek just came back so much better on Saturday and just blew away with it. And as a viewer watching the live stream, like a lot of our listeners probably did, I saw it completely different. I saw Derek well ahead on Friday, and then maintaining that on Saturday, maybe even the tad drier Saturday night, but he didn't need to improve. He was already like the best Derek we've seen, in my opinion. But I saw Samson catch up a little bit, but he was markedly, in my opinion, a second place based on his conditioning alone. Like he just didn't have the whole weekend, that conditioning. So I thought it was weird I just thought it was weird that Steve thought they were neck and neck on Friday, and then that Saturday it was Derek that pulled ahead, because on the screen, and I get what you're saying too, that like, what you saw made it look closer on the screen than it did in person. Because I imagine that too, that with Derek, like Derek from the backside was just out of this world. Like every detail was there. And then for the first time, I think we really saw that detail in his chest and shoulder region, which just hadn't been there in some of those years past, even when he won the Olympia. So I think whatever him and Chris did, I think we talked about this maybe on It's Just Bodybuilding. Maybe it was an issue of filling him out a little bit more instead of being so conservative with the food, because Derek looked bursting full, tight, dry, all the superlatives we want to see when you're on stage. He looked amazing. And Samson looked awesome, but I think coming in 5-6 pounds heavier than he did at the Olympia maybe didn't bring his best look. Could have, especially against a Derek that's on.
Yeah. And then other notables, Andrew Jack, man, I've kind of felt like Andrew Jack needs to crap or get off the pot. And I think he definitely showed everybody what was up for this show. Like if he could, from the time we've seen him last till now, if he could make that level of progress again going into the Olympia, I think he's a top placer, man.
Yeah. I mean, like we did on It's Just Bodybuilding, I think some people thought I was kind of crazy to say that I had Andrew Jack probably coming in at third.
You did called it. Yeah, you called it.
Yeah. I mean, I just, knowing the caliber of athletes he's going against and knowing what he would have to do to beat a Derek or a Samson at their best, or 95% of their best, I just didn't think he was going to be there yet, but he is the one to watch on his way up. And, this is only his 5th or 6th bodybuilding show ever.
Is that what it is now? That's ridiculous.
He turned pro 2 years ago with the Arnold, and then he's already done the Arnold. He's done 2 Texas shows. And he's done the Olympia. So 5-6 shows. I mean, that's amazing, right? To be in that position. I do have another question for you, though.
Yeah.
Who was more impressive in their division, Derek winning bodybuilding or Mike winning classic?
I wasn't there because that was Friday night. Okay. So I didn't see it in person, but I can tell you this. I mean, just you tell me what you thought, but seeing it from the pictures, and I did catch just a glimpse of prejudging at the expo. I would say that he just had so much muscle. He was too much maturity, too much size, to contend with. Although, I thought that everybody looked fantastic there.
Can't disagree with that at all. Can't disagree with that at all.
It was good, man. It was like I said, dude, it was literally, I mean, it was right up there. It was one of the best shows I have ever been to. Because usually, like I said, you're like expecting if everybody comes in shape, and then you're disappointed, and the guy who actually nailed it's the guy who wins. No, dude, it was like everybody, including freaking Brandon Curry, I mean, he really turned things around. I would have been okay with him actually placing ahead of Andrew Jack based off of what I had seen on stage, based off of like when he turned around, hit his rear double bicep. It's like, man, if they gave it to him, I would not have been shocked at all.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I got
I
one
haven't
more
added
thing.
too much. Okay,
go ahead.
Go, no,
you go ahead because I was going to change the topic.
Fair enough. Here's what I'm thinking, and I think this needs to be said. You guys, I put myself in this group too because we're seasoned, not only trainers but in the bodybuilding world anyway. We're able to assess and critique physiques without biases. Okay, of the three of us, no one cared whether Derek won or Sean won or Andrew Jack won. So we're able to do something that a lot of people can't do. And that's when I say a lot of people based on fans and things like that. They have favorites. They have their biases. So they tend to kind of look or evaluate the physiques through that lens. And I think that people, at first, when they're listening to this, they hear me say it, they're like, no, I don't do that because so I've seen a lot of bodybuilding too, Skip. I don't know what you're talking about. But there is that subconscious favoritism or bias. And we're, I think, able to put that aside and call it, I think, a little bit more accurately. Probably because we do it with clients, and we've done it with hundreds, if not thousands, of clients for so many years that it's really no different when you're assessing, an Olympia caliber stage or a regional stage. How many times have your clients come off stage and they ask you where you are, and you tell them, "Nah, it looks like you're battling for third." You're just honest, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And then, sure enough, 99.9% of the time, you're right. Versus, oh yeah, you're killing it. And then 5 hours later, they found out they didn't kill it.
Well, to your point, Skip, and I don't know, I don't know the mindset of every athlete, but I would want a coach that has the balls to give it to me honest and tell me where we stand versus being like, because I've had someone accuse me, you're not in my corner. You're not. And it's like, well, no, objectively, I'm telling you where I saw you, and I have you in that third, fourth position. If we come back a little tighter, I think we can edge out a third if they do any type of rejudging. But you know what I'm saying? Like, versus the mindset of like, what do you mean you don't have me winning? It's like, well, no one has you winning. You are not in the middle spots. Like, so they're not going to pull you from out here and give you first place. It just doesn't work that way. Like, the judges are telling you, and I want to give you some real feedback so that we know what we're going into, for the night show or for the future shows. So, yeah, that is one annoying thing sometimes when people just expect you to be blindly telling them that they're winning or, oh yeah, you're in the running, like you're looking great.
I don't want to ever let someone down. I'd rather have you like say, we'll see how you do and have you pleasantly surprised than me telling you, pumping you up, me like, Skip, there's no question, Skip, you got this show nailed, man, and then you don't. Then you're going to be like, oh, why did my coach pump me up like that? It should have dealt it to me straight. So sometimes you can't win,
That's true. I mean, if your coach tells you you're going to win and you didn't, you clearly got screwed. Your mom thinks you won. Your girlfriend thinks you won, and your coach thinks you won. I mean,
girlfriend thought I won. My mom thought I won. I was in the second call-outs, but, no big deal.
If your mom doesn't tell you that you're going to win the show, she's just not like, do you really, mom, bro?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of mom are you? You have to tell your kid he's going to win.
My mom used to videotape all my football games with like a old-fashioned VHS. And there were so many times where you'd be like, Andrew Barry, what the F are you doing? You missed that tackle. Like, literally, she would call it out before we even, like, it was I loved it, though, because it's like, yep, I missed it. Thanks for pointing it out. It makes the film watch a little bit easier so I can work on what I got to work on.
Hey, shout out to Dane. I didn't meet him here, but I've met him before. And he said he thought Logan Franklin was the most impressive. I don't know what you saw from the pictures, Andrew. I thought he was freaking incredible. But when I stood him next to, and when I stood him next, though, to Mike, he just didn't have as much tissue,
Most improved athlete, though, which is crazy to say because he's like a 8 or 9 year pro now, and he's been at a high level his whole career, in both classic and men's physique. And the fact that I was reading, and you never know if this is true or not, that he was up 12 pounds from the Olympia last year. And the fullness was clearly evident. Like his front shots were just, the conditioning was nailed, like out of this world. Like, the sad thing is, I think he's reached his genetic limitations against an athlete like Mike, who is just genetically a little bit better,
and still growing.
And still growing, a little bit younger. but super great. I'm a fan. I was
too.
really excited to see him do really well. There's one thing someone mentioned
before we
here.
got into that. I know you're going to go with that, Andrew. I wanted to throw something in real quick. I saw one other amazing freaking feat of strength, and I'm not a power lifter, right? I'm not a strength person, but dude, if you take me to the Arnold and you know when they've had at the night show, they'll have like the final event on stage. I don't even know who most of these people are. I remember I'd be like, oh, I know Derek Poundstone because Dave Palumbo interviewed him. That's it, right? But I would get behind it, and in these lifts, I'd be like, holy crap, like go, get another one. And it's just so moving. Well, Sarah Rainbow, who's literally the strongest female in the world, and she's coached by Gus, a friend of ours. They're both in Australia. We spent some time with them out there when we were out there. Victoria works with them. Sarah was invited out to lift in the animal cage, okay? So I was walking by, and I hear they mentioned she was going to do her thing. So I was like, oh, I got to stay. So I stand there, and I watch her get under the bar and squat 600 pounds with knee wraps. I'm like, holy crap. It's like just
no suit.
Yeah, it's just 600 pounds. I'm like, oh my God, So then they're like, you know what? Sarah says she's going to go for it again. And the energy when she did 600 was nuts. So now they're like, she's going to do 660. I'm like, Jesus. Oh, okay. So at this point, man, I'm like, oh, I'm a little scared because I know her. I'm like, I don't want to see her get hurt, right? I shot a video, and I want to share it with you guys and everybody at home here. I'll have to turn the volume down, so give me just a second here.
Crank it up, let's go.
So as you can tell, everybody was like getting freaking amped for her, right? Yeah. And that they're telling her they're telling us, they're like, you know what? When she gets ready to do this, I need you guys out there to make as much noise as possible. The more energy she feels, the stronger she'll be. So like they start, you'll see right as she's getting ready to lift, they start shaking the cage. I'm just going to roll it up here. All right. Let's see if I can turn this up.
You still need to turn that sound on. I want to hear it, man.
You guys aren't loud enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Shake that cage.
And I was like, holy shit, it's decently clean.
Jesus.
And then I was like, she's doing it again? And then I was like, now she's going for her third? With 660? Oh, amazing. I literally, like, tears started welting up in my eyes. I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it now again.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to see something so, I don't want to say inhuman, but so next level, so
superhuman.
Come up with words. Yeah, it does. I mean, it is kind of moving. I know things like that make me choke on my tongue sometimes too, because I just think that's just so. It's just
it's like when someone you know that someone has put so much time into their craft, whether it's this lift or a really good like violinist, or who's just like feeling it and like going to town on a solo, or a guitarist, or someone who's just really good at something. There's something that just kind of makes you stop and on, like wow, I can feel that you put a lot of time and energy into that, and I respect it, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's mastery. It's almost a
yes.
Just you've taken something to such a level that no one, like, second place is a long way behind you. And I don't mean any disrespect to the person behind her, but let's be fair. I hope that the person behind her is thinking the same thing, because that's the truth of it. That's just crazy.
And what's really funny too is she's kind of like a big human being, but she's really sweet and like the most low-key, quiet person that you would ever imagine meeting.
That's awesome.
She's super cool. But it was incredible. And then I also found out afterward that like 660 isn't real hard for her. I found out they're like, oh yeah, we knew she could do this all along. She's done like 685 or 690. So
well, it's probably one of those things where like, let's make sure we give the crowd something that like we know we can hit, so
right?
They go crazy, Right. And then she was feeling it. That's why she did the 3 reps with it. Like, okay, like I'm feeling today. I'm good. The crowd's giving me some energy. Like, this is a workout for me. This isn't like an all-time lift. This is fun.
I did a vlog too that's going to come out. It'll come out on Thursday. You guys will have already seen it if you're watching this now, recorded. But I asked her what it was like, and she said it was the craziest out of all the things she's done. She said lifting in the animal cage was like the most insane energy that she's ever had. So cool experience. Thank you for tuning in. And if we are providing value to you today, let me encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell. We have several bodybuilding podcasts that come out each week.
I don't want to be out of line here. I just wanted to ask you, because it's the Arnold, and I know we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but can I please ask you guys about Sam? Even if it's just, we're just on it for a minute. Sam Sulek.
Well,
because he won his card.
So
I just wonder what you guys think.
All right, so like, no hate on the guy, because we have nothing against him whatsoever. But and I do think he was the best in his class. I do think he deservedly won his class. In terms of the overall, I wouldn't have had him win the pro card.
I didn't see the overall. I didn't see the competition.
But let me just say this: the level of talent at the Arnolds in the Classic was not nearly the level of talent that's at the Nationals, at Universe, at USA's. Like, it just wasn't. You know what I'm saying? And the judges can only judge.
Is it?
Very rarely is it. Every now and then you get some.
You get some good guys, but it's not like North Americans where top 8, or top 10 is all killer in every weight class.
Like, I remember being at Nationals last year in Class B and C, like 2 classes deep, two call outs deep on each of them. Top 10 were stellar. Everyone's glutes, everything dialed in to a T, conditioning, fullness, like everyone looked amazing. I had a really good guy who didn't even make top 10. Like, and he improved so much from his previous national show that anyone looking at his pictures side by side would have been like, oh, this guy's a shoo-in for first call out, but it's just, that's the level of talent at those shows. So with that said, the judges can only judge what they have in front of them. Right.
Sure.
And I do think he was the best athlete in his class, but I would have given it to, my buddy Amit had a guy in Class B who I think should have taken the overall. I don't know if there's a little bit of social media politics to go into.
And you never know, man. You never know. I'm sure. I bet he put a lot of butts in those seats, because I've been to the amateur, a bunch of times, and usually it's only like 4. It's I said this on It's Just Bodybuilding too, but it's the same auditorium that you're doing the open show in, but it's usually like the first 4 rows to 6 rows.
Yeah.
And it's just like their friends and people who traveled with them. And it is a cool show because you have teams from around the world. It'll be like, there's a bunch of guys from Italy, and here's a bunch of guys from, whatever other country, and, even like China or whatever. It's cool to see the different groups of bodybuilders all come together. But sure. I'm with you, man. I get what you're saying. But more power to him, right?
That's where I was going. Like you said, Andrew, you can only call as a judge, you don't have any control who you're standing next to. So it's not Sam's fault, quite frankly, that he pulled it off. Other people could have shown up. They could have competed against him if they want to complain about it. Here's my thing. This is aside from the actual show or him getting a pro card. I tell you what's cool. The fact that not just because he's young, that doesn't even play into it that much. But the fact that he's doing so many things, I won't say wrong. I'll say far less than optimal. From training, he's got these out of the box things. He's kind of he's
figuring it out.
Having fun. He's doing what we all did at that age, and to see him this successful, doing things that aren't terribly optimal, there's a lot of potential there. It makes me like him because at some point he's going to optimize those things. He's not even working with somebody. I mean, he wants to do this pretty much on his own, and he's got all these people around him. Probably is taking advice. Don't get me wrong. But he's making those decisions on his own. It's commendable. I think it's commendable.
Here's what I can say. He leveled up for sure, because my main critique of him was this. Well, my critique was his posing at the last show. He didn't really know how to hit his legs right, and he leveled up from that. And that's what the beauty is of competition, is that you learn so much the second you get off that stage. That first time, there's so many things to learn, but he definitely learned that and came back and brought better posing this time. I think that played into his favor for sure.
I would wonder if in those 2 or 3 weeks, if someone reached out to him that's competent as a coach and was like, hey, let me help you dial this in, because his condition markedly better. He knew how to hit his legs on stage. Like, so all those little things, like someone probably was with him, drilling him on posing every day. Like, just building that muscle memory of what you need to do on stage that you don't know if you don't. Like, think about it. Your first show, did you remember to hit your legs like perfectly on every single pose?
Right.
Like, no.
No.
You know, like if you look down, they're probably smooth as butter for half your front double biceps and your lat, you know, your lat spreads.
I'm crunching. Oh, my legs, you know?
Yeah, you know. I do want to give a shout out to Anthony Williams. He won the super heavyweight in the overall as well as the pro card at bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I got to say, because normally I talk down about the Arnold in terms of the amateur show. The super heavyweight class was really good. Like, really good.
Somebody else mentioned that too. Stefan
you had four guys that could turn pro, like in this year or next for sure. Second place guy, he's Eric something. He's a big Instagram guy. He needs to learn his posing and needs to learn how to get in condition. His physique is vastly better than anyone in the show, but he just needs to like dial those things in. And then Jordan, I can't remember his last name. He was Hunter Labrada's training partner for a long time and still might be. He ended up getting top 5 at nationals last year, and he got 3rd this year at the Arnolds. Amazing physique. He's leveling up too. So just shout out to those guys. They looked amazing.
Okay. Now, Andrew, were you going to bring up that topic? Stefan had said, great Arnold, but there was a tragedy of a passing of a person backstage. Can we please educate people on the dangers of diuretics? I think I know what he's talking about, but I think he has it wrong, doesn't he? If we're talking about the same person?
Yeah, first off, and I think she's a listener, and I feel really bad. My name, I'm like not remembering her name off the top of my head right now. Someone in the comments will probably remind me. But no, she wasn't competing. She was 20-something weeks out from the show.
She was a listener of the show?
I believe she was a listener of the show. I believe I saw her comment one time because the name kind of like when
I thought, I just looked her up, and I thought when I saw her name, I was like, oh, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah. And so, you know, and everyone in our sport is so quick to jump on, what did her coach have her doing? What did her coach tell her to do? And the fact of the matter is that some of us talked to her coach. He didn't tell her to do anything. They hadn't even really gotten started yet on her prep. She had wanted to use DNP, and he had told her, no, I don't think that's a good idea right now. And she decided to do it anyway. And her friend who was there with her backed up this whole explanation that no, she's a smart girl. She knew what she was doing, and she decided to disregard her coach's directions and wanted to do this anyway, maybe to get a jump start on her prep, start dropping body fat quicker. She also didn't let him know that she was hospitalized 3 weeks before this, presumably for also taking DNP and maybe doing some other things. But diuretics, to my understanding, didn't have anything to do with this. She was not a competitor at the show. She wasn't coached into the show, or this wasn't an issue of a coach, depleting water, electrolytes, and loading her up on diuretics or anything like that. To the contrary, this was an athlete making a decision to do something on their own, and unfortunately, it just didn't pan out. So and it kind of opens up the question that maybe we need to revisit DNP as a topic in bodybuilding, because this isn't Jody. That's her name. Sorry,
Jody.
This isn't the first athlete in the last year or two that has passed away from using DNP. I remember a young guy whose name also escapes me last year passed away using DNP on his own, without the guidance of a coach. Not that, the guidance of a coach is going to protect you from an issue with DNP, but, it's a reason why I don't use it with athletes, just because it's so unpredictable. And I never want to wake up to someone's mom or girlfriend or husband messaging me saying, so-and-so's gone, and they were running the DNP that you told them to take. So,
dude.
So yeah.
You gotta, I think sometimes people don't always think that one through. We've all, as coaches, known somebody who's lost a client, man. I've known people that it's changed their lives. I've known people that have been like, I'm quitting coaching after this. Yeah. That's the last freaking thing that I would ever want, to happen. And I guess to me, we don't talk about DNP a lot on the channel in general, because like you said, Andrew, you don't use it with your clients. I don't use it with my clients. I don't know if you use it, Skip, or if you have.
No, I've used it.
Yeah, I've used it myself. I wanted to know. I've used it twice.
But I haven't used it with.
And it's just one of those things, man. It's like with all the tools that we have, the way I see it is that we can do it, without needing to use that stuff. It's just the way my brain works.
I don't think there's another compound that we use that has more, or the potential for more dire consequences or ramifications. There's no antidote other than packing you in ice and hoping for the best. I said this years ago. I said it when I when I played around and trialed the, using the drug. I was against it for a long time. The only reason that I went and experimented with it was because during that time, and I don't know, this is 5, 6, 7, no, it's longer than that, 7, 8, 9 years ago. It was in there somewhere.
Wow.
2016, 17, because we were living still in Colorado.
Yep.
And it was a low dose trend. There were people talking about 200 microgram, 250 microgram. You didn't have the negative
milligram, right?
Side effects. Yeah. And so I thought, you know what? There's some sense to this. This seems logical. I'll give it a shot. If I'm thinking to myself, if anybody is going to have constant variables and be able to assess, this at this low dose, it would be me, because I just don't change, from my diet to my gear. And so I like to keep those variables constant, and it went great. I'm not going to tell the whole story because I've gone down. It's on the TRT bodybuilding DVD, online DVD in depth. I go into it.
And about a dozen episodes of BSG too.
Yeah, exactly. But 30. I took it the first time and it worked great. And I was like, oh, okay. Came back, used it again. I'm like, now a little bit of water retention. The third time, it was an absolute disaster. And I'll just say this. I don't know how I made it through that night. I was in my basement, beautiful home, our death home. Ironically enough, we called it our death home because we were going to retire there. And I remember thinking I couldn't lie down, because when I lie down, I would have, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I was holding 30 pounds of water. What digestion wasn't moving. I couldn't take in more water because I was literally pregnant. I had no room in my stomach to get anything else in. It was just literally all backed up, and my system was just totally not working. And I knew that if I went to the hospital, they were going to give me an IV. Because they wouldn't know about DNP, and that would essentially kill me, or the likelihood of me having further ramifications would be better. I needed to wait, and I stayed up that whole night, and I wrote it out. And I remember literally looking up, and I'm not trying to be dramatic about this, but my wife and I have raised 4 kids. I didn't even tell her what was going on. And I remember looking up, it's about 4:00 in the morning, and the kids were sleeping, above, me, where our basement and our, my office was, and our bedroom down there and everything. And I just thought, they don't have any clue. My kids don't have any clue that something could happen to me literally any second. And it was clear I was in congestive heart failure. At what stage, I don't even know. I don't even know to this day what the damage, or if there was any damage from that. I had to assume that there probably was. So now I'm going to get people go, oh, why haven't you tested you know what? Mind your own business. I'll handle my business. You handle your business. The answer to that is, I don't know that I want to know if I have heart, issues. I had a sister who died at 29 in her sleep. She had heart issues. So I'm not sure I want to know that. Anyway, that was a horrible, and it made me so mad at myself, because I had said for so long that it's a horrible drug. Why use it? There's just like you said, Scott, there are so many other options that it just doesn't even make sense to use it. And yet I go, well, I don't want anybody asking me about a drug that I haven't used. I've always prided myself on that. I'm not going to give you advice or tell you, oh, well, I've never used that compound before. So I thought I used it, and it worked well until it didn't. And then you're just stuck. And then you just got to hope for there was nothing I could do. I had to ride it out.
That poor kid, dude. She was 20. She was 20.
It's just horrible. It's horribly sad. It's just terrible. The poor I'd go so far as to say this, not to sound insensitive to her, but her poor family.
Oh yeah.
The devastation as a parent to lose to something that we all know is it's senseless. It's so incredibly unfortunate. And I'm saying that not to be critical of her, but to be critical of me too. I had no business taking it either. It wasn't any more justified me using it as a trainer for the experience than her using it at 20. Arguably, she was in better health, or should have been in better health than me.
Yeah.
Because I took it when I was older.
Yeah. I just think of what I was like at 20. And then hell, dude, I think of what I was like at 35, going to my first Arnold, because I went to my first Arnold like early 2000s, 15, 20 years ago now. I'm so different now. And I'd feel like, man, to have your life cut off then would be like, I've grown so much. I've gotten to see so much, do so much, live so much. And to think, let's go 15 years back from that, 20 years old, man. You literally were just in high school 2 years ago. It's a shame, man. And it's needless. You know what I'm saying? It's freaking needless. That's what, a lot of our content is. We talk about gear and everything, but a lot of it is like, let's keep you guys safe out there. So please, when we talk about like, hey, get the most out of the least, it's not because we don't want you to use more gear. We think that you need to gatekeep it and be a super heavyweight first. We want to see you guys stay alive. We've seen a lot of people over the years that have not come out the better end from bodybuilding,
Let's also note that I can't think of a single instance of someone taking a PED cycle and passing away within a week or a day.
Right.
But it's always the ancillaries, whether it's DNP or messing up your diuretic usage. It's you know what I mean? Maybe you can argue that using anabolic steroids are a slow killer if you're not doing your due diligence with your supplementation, blood work, etc. But there are some things in our sport, such as these ancillaries, fat burners and whatnot, that could kill you within that first couple doses, whether it's DNP, compounding diuretics with your electrolyte imbalance, lack of water. So it's crazy.
Why, hello! I wanted to do something different with my True Nutrition advertisement for today. And here's the thing, I just got our order in. Victoria and I, we pay for all the protein that we get. They don't send us anything for free. And that's because I've believed in True Nutrition for 15 years now. I've been using them ever since I contest prep. They have some of the cleanest, best quality protein. A lot of times I use the Team Skip, but here's the deal. I'm going back to the Pure Whey Isolate. Pure Whey Isolate, it just processes so fast. This is my favorite flavor, chocolate peanut butter cup. But if you want to try just like 1 pound at a time, you can do that. Just sample it. I've never had the cookie butter, so I'm going to try the cookie butter this week. We got a big old bag of pea protein isolate. For the wife, this is what she likes to use. And here's the thing, they're just about wholesale prices at True Nutrition. Plus, they don't add the flavor in when they weigh it. So you get like legit 1 pound of protein, and then from there they add the flavor after that. So every 1 pound, I think it's like 1.2. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But hey, here's the thing, True Nutrition is a great quality protein. They believe in us. They advertise with us because I literally asked them to. And if you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings. Plus, of course, that's like voting for our podcast. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed my my impromptu ad. Goodbye. All right. Well, let's get into some listener questions. I know that we had a bunch of them. And you guys freaking loaded us up. By the way, too, I should mention, if you enjoy our content and you're not subscribed, then let me encourage you to subscribe, because we do have several good bodybuilding shows that come out each week. And listen, for all of you guys subscribed, we are way below average on the number of people who actually hit the bell. So like, you need to turn on the notifications. Otherwise, YouTube doesn't. You can be subscribed and like never see us again. So definitely make sure that you hit the bell as well. I'm just going to pull this from the top and see where we go. All right. So GLP-1s and growth hormone, stacking them together. Are there going to be any benefits of using these two things at once? And this was a question from Patreon.
Certainly, because I think we all would agree, because we all do it. We all stack growth hormone and GLP-1s. So yeah, is there some magical synergy between the two? Not like let's say insulin and growth hormone? No. But can you prolong a good, solid insulin sensitivity, blood sugar level while using copious amounts of GH? Absolutely. So that's where the synergy is, I guess, is that it'll allow you to continue using higher dosages of growth hormone.
I can't disagree with that. The only thing I would add is it could potentially, because it has for me, allowed me to lower the amount of insulin that I need to get the same response. Not significantly, but enough to notice.
I like that.
That's a good point.
Okay, another Patreon question from Casey. He says, when injecting TRT with an insulin needle, what gauge size is used to inject and what size to draw?
I say inject with a 5 and draw with a 4. What do you guys? That's just like basically a funnel. You're like, are you serious?
Well, I think I told you guys. I think after a show, I pulled up an 18 gauge needle and I showed you guys. I'm like, this is what I used to inject myself with. 18 gauge.
I think we've all done it at some point. The old Sustanon needles, the preloads.
It's a harpoon is what it really is. But
pretty much.
I'm forgetting exactly what the gauges are on insulin needles. I think they're 25 and 27.
And they go up to like 29 up to 31.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
29, you might have a hard time really squeezing it out. You might get sore thumbs before you're done. You know what I'm saying? You might
Honestly,
have
it does work. Here's the thing. It's actually not as bad as you would think because the barrel of an insulin pin is more narrow.
Yeah.
And that matters. But here's the hard part. Drawing it.
Well, would you guys
4 days?
wouldn't you backload those though?
That's what I do.
Like use a regular. Yeah, save yourself the time and backload a bunch of them. Like if you're going to do a month's worth of TRT, backload a bunch of them. Just keep them, solid somewhere, and then it's just a quick injection.
I've tried it, but it's so messy and it's I don't know about you guys. I get all my gear for free, and I still don't want to waste a drop of it. Sorry.
You got to get good. It takes backloading takes practice.
Well, so that's why I recommend doing like 10 backloads at once or 20 backloads at once. So, because like you said, you got to be a little bit more. You got to create a sterile condition because you're going to put the plunger side of the insulin needle on something right while you're backloading. So you get your alcohol papers out and you rest it on there and you cover it up, and then you do a bunch of them at once. So that way you're not doing that every time, which would be a very tedious. Like if I'm like you, Skip, where it'd be like, if I'm going to go through this whole process, I might as well just spend time trying to suck, using a 27 gauge needle and waiting as that drop over 15 minutes to get the.
There's a little tip there though too for that. And what that is once you draw back, like you pull back, I use 0.5 mil because I don't know why. I just do. But I pull back to the 50, and as soon as it starts to run down the side and a little bit gets to the plunger, then it'll stick. So then I just have to hold it. I don't have to hold the plunger back.
True.
So then I just wait. I check my phone with my other hand, and I'm kind of holding it up here, that sort of thing, and waiting. But yeah, it takes a little bit longer to do it that way for sure.
29 gauge, but I don't really do a lot of TRT with insulin pins. I do it the old fashioned way. I do all mine with insulin. Do you?
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I always do.
If I do, I backload.
Quite frankly, I like it. Straight into my delts, my side delts. Yeah, I love it. It's just nice to not have to. Keep in mind, I think I've done gear longer than you, right? I think I have you in total years. So I've got a lot of scar tissue.
I started when I was 7.
Oh, you got me. I started at 9. So you got me by a couple years. No, it's just trying to minimize that scar tissue. So I actually do like that break. And I remember every time I start, because I started cycle, almost 4 weeks ago. And then it's kind of this, I got to do my introductions.
Yeah,
I've been like that for years. I don't love it. When people say, "Oh yeah, I just get this rush," I don't get a rush from it at all. Right? I look at my phone and go, "Oh, I got to do my gear tonight."
Same here. And then if you forgot though, and you're already in bed, you're like, "I'll just do it tomorrow."
Yep.
Unless it's a contest prep situation where you're real serious, it's like, what's a day in the off season or whatever? I'll just do it tomorrow. Yeah. And then I'll forget then too, probably.
Do you guys remember on the last episode we talked about doing what we're gonna bring back something they had on the Geared Up podcast. We're gonna call it what they called it, the hardcore set of the week. Now we had 2 entries for that this week. Now one of them is gonna be disqualified, so we can't use that. Let me scroll down here. By the way, guys, if you're not part of the Facebook group, I know that nobody goes to Facebook anymore. But that said, we do have a group and a bunch of good guys are there. So here's one entry. Who is this first? This is from Aaron. And I'm going to see if I can bring this one up. You guys can see this all right?
Yep.
And turn that music off. There we go. What does he have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plates?
6. I think it's 6, isn't it?
It's 5 plates. Solid set, man. Good flexibility all the way down.
Yeah.
You see those legs are shaking, man. How many reps did he get there?
More than I did.
Yeah.
7, 8. And I'm guessing I didn't count them.
was a good set.
Yeah.
It was a good set.
Honestly, I'm impressed that he still does a posterior chain type deadlift movement. I gave those up years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, just even the thought process of like dragging 45s down and like rolling the other bars, up onto something else so you could slide them on. And like that alone would give you a back pump, just constantly grabbing the weights and loading them up and,
So we had him enter, and then we had another entry. But here's the thing. So he sent me over to his Instagram here. And the problem with this is that this is from like 150 weeks ago.
Yeah, this is impressive though.
This is a
like
great
butter.
set, man. Like look how good of a squatter he is too. Like if I squatted like that, I'd be squatting every day.
Right.
He gets like
You ever tried that squatting every day?
3 reps. I did. It's been a long time. I mean, we're talking back like my late teen years, and it only lasted for I don't
2
know.
days.
Wasn't that a Justin? Yeah, no, it lasted for about a week and a half.
Did it?
But it got to the point where it was just it was brutal. And then when I rested and I came back to it a week and a half later, I was stronger. It was pretty crazy. The difference or the impact that it had. Wasn't that a Justin Harris thing?
Was it?
I know he had that for a while, where the squat every day thing.
I think he did that, but I guarantee he wasn't the one that came up with it, because I remember reading about guys doing this stuff like in the 70s and 80s as part of, was it like Bulgarian strength training or something like that?
I don't know. It's just funny that you said Bulgarian stank.
I heard that too.
I got it.
It was good. It's good.
Yeah.
He's still going here.
Can't let that go.
We've got like a 5-minute break here. We just leave.
Yeah, well, and the thing is they were easy until, I say easy. Visually, they looked easy until like 35, 38. I'm like, God, he could do this for like 80 reps. And then all of a sudden, they started to get a little slower.
Right.
So then when he gets to 43, I'm like, okay. And this is just questioning. I'm not in that set. And people need to understand that you can't usually see intensity visually. I mean, you can sometimes, but you don't know what that feels like at that 43rd rep. But I still questioned. I'm like, they were easy until about relatively easy visually for like until the last 4 or 5. So mentally, were you missing something that you couldn't just pull 7 more reps out of you? And that's just me thinking out loud. I'm not being critical of 43 reps at, what is that, 330, I think he said it was?
Yeah.
Yep. He probably just got gassed out. You know what I mean? Just having the
And how
power
are
on
you
your
getting-
back like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lungs and everything else. But how are you getting 330 out of those plates? I'm trying to figure that out, because
I'm just going by what he wrote in there.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking,
Well, it
because
looks
I'm like, that don't look right.
270.
It looks like 365, or at least if those are 10s on the end, that would be 335, and he's got collars on there.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Maybe it's just a
yeah.
40-pound bar for some reason.
Yeah, there may be
It-
there may be something in there I'm missing, but and 330, 340, 350, 43 reps. I'm going to give it to you. You deserve it. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
He's still going.
This is kind of Tom Platz type stuff.
Yeah, it really is, man.
Oh yeah.
Like this it hasn't looped yet. We're like still watching the same set here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even no spotter for like the last 10. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. All right, he's slowing down now. There we go.
Yeah, they're starting to get a little bit slower. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, come on. This is where it gets interesting now. Let's see what he's got left in him. There we go. Come on.
Yeah.
Up. Oh.
I think he knows that he wasn't going to be able to get one more.
Yeah.
Like
If
could
I
just
go
tell
down
from
on this
that.
next one,
Yeah.
I'm not coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very impressive, Mr. What was his name?
So that was Joe Webb, and then before him we had let's see, Aaron Carpenter. So because what do we do here, Andrew? I feel like if it's the hardcore set of the week, isn't this week?
Yeah, we should caveat it with like within this month, we'll call it the set of the week. But if it was done within like the last 2-3 weeks, and you're like, oh, I got a great one on video from a couple weeks ago, that's a great submission. I would say Joe would win, but like you said, it's 150 weeks old. Let's see what you can do today.
And I'll say this too. How about Yeah, how about this? We'll say that Joe sets the bar for everybody else, right? We'll use Joe as the prime example. That's a hard, you know what? Because I think like Aaron's got a great set here. It's a standard rep range of 8-10 reps, something like that. Let's see what you guys can do for 20 or 30. You know, that's like, we remember seeing Big Dave Smith with like the Bros versus Pros challenge where, you know, he's deadlifting or squatting, 100 reps or whatever with 5 plates. Like that was incredible stuff. Some of those feats of strength. So it could be anything.
We did the intense set of the month on intense muscle for a couple of years. And one of our stipulations was we didn't want to put as much focus on the weight because we wanted to focus on the actual intensity. And our argument was intensity isn't necessarily related, to strength. Like you can be really strong, but maybe you're not training intensely. And what that also did is it also allowed people who aren't as strong and haven't been in the sport as long to still be able to compete for the intensity aspect of the contest itself. So, and I'm not telling you how to do the
No, I say you're right, man. Like if we take a guy who can only press the 55-pound dumbbells, but he does a nasty set, he's our winner, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, what if we had a formula where you take the weight done and there's some factor versus the reps done and also a factor of like body antics, screaming, maybe you get extra points if you shit yourself.
If you poop yourself,
you
definitely get extra points or vomit after.
How much of a crowd comes to stand around you and cheer you on? Like we could really build a formula to come up with the.
Do you end up with a fracture or a compound fracture when you're done?
Yeah. Are you hospitalized for how many days?
Yeah, how many days?
how much rhabdo did you really get?
Rhabdo, that's where I was going to go to. Yeah, were you?
That'd be a great T-shirt.
Rhabdo and how soon?
Yeah.
That'd be a good T-shirt. Like how far into rhabdo did you get?
Ooh. Okay, we've gotten this question a bunch of times before. By the way, guys, join the Facebook group. You can post those up there, your hardcore set of the week. And also, we've been asked, like, where can I post a physique critique for the shows? If you post them up in the group, that's a great place. Just one solid place. Also, too, for everybody on Patreon, guys, if you are on Patreon, let me know. You guys get priority on everything. So I would definitely love to do any more physique critiques for you guys, especially. But back to our questions. How do you guys combat water retention in carpal tunnel while on growth hormone? We've gotten this a few times lately.
Ignore it.
I was going to say, I'm in that stage right now, and it's just like, ugh. So it is. It's a level of tolerance, really.
You look at your arm and how much it's throbbing, and then you take your shirt off and you go in the mirror and you just hit like a most muscular. And if that most muscular is more impressive than when you're not on growth hormone, you just ignore it. It's always been my take. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I only get it while I'm sleeping.
Yes.
Only time I get it. It's only time.
Does it follow you once you wake up though? Like for the first couple hours of the day, it kind of hangs around?
It will a little bit. I have I'm getting, and I have not had this for the last couple of years that I've used Serostim, but it's because I've jumped my dosage up quite a bit. I was 4 on TRT, then I started the first month, at 8, and then all of a sudden, I'm not playing. I jumped to 12, and that's where I'll stay for the rest of this cut phase. But that's part of the reason. Before, when I stepped it up in slower increments and took longer at each stage. But what I find is the longer I sleep, the longer I am not in motion, the worse that it gets. So if I sleep 8.5 hours, it's going to be worse the last couple hours than if I only sleep for 6 hours. But I'm getting the trigger finger. I'm getting this where, if I get up and I start to, move my hands real fast, it's like, Yeah. So it's like old people arthritis hands. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Well, on that note, do you guys notice it's harder for you to do stuff like, all right, someone had a plate on the floor, a 45-pound plate face down, and they walked over with their fingertips and were just able to pick it right up. And I was like, man, that's amazing you can still do that. Because I was like, watch this. And I look like a kid trying to like a baby giraffe walking, the version of that, of trying to pick this up. Like, couldn't get a grip on it to save my life. And I attribute that to years of growth hormone. Just nerve damage, losing some sensitivity, losing some of that motor, whatever you want to call it, to be able to do like those fine, grippy, motory type things. Do you guys experience that at all?
I hadn't, but I hadn't run that much growth.
I haven't noticed it. I don't think I've noticed it if I do. No.
Yeah. But it sounds like this person wants like some actionable stuff, and unfortunately, despite what everyone says, like there just really isn't. It's kind of like you can lower the dose if you wanted to. You could. People try to do things with like their sleeping arrangements, with like elevating their hands a little bit with 2 pillows on the side. Sometimes people will then like try to let one arm hang off the bed, and then they'll like sleep on their side and let that other arm hang off the bed.
That's what I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean it's when you're in it, you just kind of move every couple hours, every 20 minutes while you're sleeping, just to get comfortable again. It gives you relief for about 5 minutes, and then it kind of wakes you up again.
Right.
But the only alternative is to lower the dose, and we know
we're not going to do that. It's crazy talk.
That's like quitting. Yeah.
Exactly. Quitter. You might as well just give it all to us.
Scott, can you speak to the topic of deloading, specifically while on cycle? How necessary is it? If on moderate to high doses of gear, it seems like a waste of a deload during a cycle, especially if the gear is accelerating recovery. If you recommended deloads while on cycle, do you maintain your dosages for that week? As well as the calories. Thanks. Well, I'll tell you what I would say, guys, and you tell me what you would do differently. My thought would be this. So, yeah, there are going to be times for some people, maybe not everybody needs a deload. And if I could time it up a little bit better, I'd maybe like to get that deload in before we started the cycle. But sometimes you end up in a position, especially for a guy that's really pushing for strength. If you have somebody who's really strong, somebody who's maybe beating their logbook each week, then the likelihood of you needing a break, if you're pushing to your absolute max, the likelihood of you needing a break is probably going to be more likely than not. And the longer your cycle is, the more likely you're going to need a deload. My thought is this, that a lot of times people think of the deload as taking away, but in actuality, you're backing off only to slingshot forward. You'll find that after the deload, if you need one, if you genuinely need one, you're going to be stronger. You're going to be more recovered. You know, why do we need a deload? You know, you're not able to progress anymore. But there's other stuff too, like, oh man, my wrist has really been bothering me this week. And last week it was my elbow. And the other week before that, it was my knee. Our body starts telling us these things. When I start hearing of people getting little tweaks all the time, I'm starting to wonder, like, well, what's your body telling us? Is that potentially one of those things where we're at a point where you could use a break? Maybe you're not as excited to train anymore. Like, do you want to freaking kill it every time you get in the gym? Or are you getting to the point where it's just not as exciting anymore? You know, like, look at your mental state. If you need a deload when you come back, you know, you're gonna launch forward, and you're gonna be stronger, and you're not gonna lose anything. Generally, it depends on what we do. For some people, like Dusty said he would take just the week off. Dante would tell him, like, well, you could deload and do this and this, or you could just take the week off. Dusty would take the week off. And some people are like that, man. I could see Skip being like that, being like, oh, screw it, I'm not going in there to just do halfway. If I can't do what I do, then I'm not going to do nothing at all. So there's that. One thing I've liked to do, I mean, another option would be do the same things you do, but don't go to failure. Keep everything reps in reserve. Maybe do less sets. Maybe even do less volume overall. Maybe we do push-pull legs. We train 5 days a week. Maybe we just do push-pull legs 3 days a week, and you're going to back the volume down some. None of it's going to be a failure. And then one final option I'll throw at them is to possibly find other exercises that you haven't been doing. You're so locked in with those exercises you're progressing with. Give yourself the opportunity to have some fun this week. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, though, I don't want you to push your central nervous system to hard failure for the week and come back. And 4 days in, you're going to tell me that you want to go back and you're ready, but you're not. I want you to take a full week. That's my spiel. What do you guys say?
It's a pretty good explanation of deloading. I would add this, and this is where we might differ a little bit. I think if for the people who don't deload, my question to those people would be, how do you know you're training hard enough? How do you know you're putting your toes up to the line and potentially getting or dancing with the overtraining aspect of it? Because if your answer is that you are training hard enough and you're just staying right on that line, I don't know how you would know that. The option or the other thing then, if that's the case, is you're training hard enough every single time and your recovery is 100% optimal. Otherwise, you're just not taking a deload because mentally it's not a good idea. I will deload. I don't care if it's cycle. I don't care if it's in a prep. And I always say that they need to be proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
Because they're more effective. And going back to what you said about the Dante saying about, doing it lighter or kind of an active deload versus taking the week off. If you take them proactive, then they need, in my opinion, they need to be active. You need to train, but at a much lower threshold that week. You're essentially optimizing recovery at that point, and you should come back stronger the next week. If you're taking the deload reactively because you have aches and pains and your CNS is fried or whatever the issue is, then taking the week off will be incredibly beneficial because you may need that much rest. Trying to figure out which one you need, that's pretty advanced. You got to be pretty good with reading your body's feedback, and you have to be good enough to understand and evaluate and be honest with yourself. Do I need this deload versus, I've got an ache and pain here, I'm just going to continue to push.
Yeah.
And that's not always optimal either.
That's why it's good to have a coach that kind of just tells you to do this stuff, right? I mean,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I say that because most bodybuilders, or especially type A people, because bodybuilders tend to fall into that category on some level, their move is to always just do more, go harder, ignore it, push through. But having a coach that's like, okay, you've been telling me you've been having poor sleep, you got some tendonitis going on, you kind of said you didn't want to go to the gym the other day, but you did anyway. Like, those are all, feedback signs that a good coach will
HRV.
say, yeah, no, HRV, like heart rate, all sorts of different variables. Those are all signs that your coach should be picking up on. And that's why it's good to have a coach, maybe not so much to tell you to take drugs or do, these exercises, but to kind of monitor your sympathetic versus parasympathetic response, And on that note, the only thing I'll add to what you guys said, because I thought it was a great explanation for both you guys, is I like to try to tend to add in parasympathetic work if they're not doing it before. So if there's someone that has to go to the gym, I'll be like, okay, go to the gym, but you're not going to do weights. You're going to do a mobility, foam rolling, and a stretching session for like 35 minutes. Okay. Or I want you to go and do Epsom salt baths or some of the cold plunge, those types of things that are going to help aid your recovery. And then hopefully you keep those modalities going into the rest of your push, and you avoid having to take another deload while you're on cycle.
Do you guys have any clients that do like cold plunges or anything like that have seen a noticeable difference with them in their recovery?
I wanted to ask the same question, and I thought Scott's going to get mad because I'm going down a rabbit hole here. Yeah, that's funny. I want to hear Andrew because he brought it up.
I do, but it's okay. So it's like anything; you got to do it religiously. You can't do it once 3 weeks ago and think you're going to be getting that benefit now, Problem is we all don't have access 24/7 to our own cold plunges, which, we could build them and stuff like that, but then paying for the electricity to keep it cold, all those different variables. It's just like we don't all have. Yeah. Well, it's like having a sauna too. I get so much relief and recovery from a sauna. I don't have one though, and I'm not going to spend $3,000 and build one in my backyard. It's just, but in terms of the cold plunges, all right, let me ask you, have you guys done cryotherapy?
I never have.
Similar modality. I mean, you got to get yourself pumped up to do even just 3 minutes, which is what the max. Oh, dude, and I'm a wuss. I think I do minus 140 or something like that, whereas Rachel goes in minus 190 and can just sit there. I need the person who's conducting the thing to be talking to me the whole time and updating me every 3 seconds. Where are we at now? Okay, 67 seconds. Okay, where are we at? Oh, we're at 61 seconds. Okay, great. I need someone to, because otherwise, if they weren't there watching me, I'd be like, I did about 3 minutes, 30 seconds in, and I'd get out.
Yeah,
So let me ask you this, Andrew, and this is an honest question. I'm going to make a joke, but it's true.
Yeah.
We go out on the boat roughly every Saturday, and I like to get out of the boat to get to the sandbar. But this time of the year, even though it's 80 degrees, on the boat, the water is fucking cold. And I'm not kidding when I say that I told my wife the other day, I'm like, I'm not getting in because I don't want to have a heart attack. I swear that sometimes I think, because
I know what you mean, man.
Like that shortness of breath, and I'm like it takes your breath away. I'm like, this can't be good for my heart. I'm 55 years old in a week. I'm gonna die doing this. So then I think about the cold plunge, and I have clients who are older and they do it, and I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to them. Is there any truth to that or no?
Yeah, it is good for your heart, and it is good for your heart. Just like
it's
if
not
you're
bad, is what you're saying.
It's certainly
I just want to make sure it's not bad. Oh, okay.
If it doesn't stop your heart, it just makes it stronger, Skip. You know, keeps it beating real good.
It makes me feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm not kidding.
I know what you mean,
in that
man.
instance, the the thermal reception just causes you to it takes your breath away for a quick second. Yeah, it's funny because I came across this today. It was a Titanic post, and it was at one of the Titanic museums. They have a well of water that you put your hand in that is matching the temperature of the water when the Titanic went down, and like how long do you think you could stand it? And people go and they dunk their arm in, and most people could only do an average of 8 seconds, and it was only 28 degrees, which is crazy, right? It's not 28 degrees. You're like, that doesn't seem that cold, but 28
that's real
degrees
cold, man. It's real.
I mean,
cold.
It's really cold, but it's not zero. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not 5. We are very receptive to temperature change, right? Like, especially, Skip, you're talking about it's 80 degrees out here. I jump in the water and it's 52 degrees, but it feels like you're jumping in water that's like sub-zero. You know, I know, I get it.
I've noticed too. I heard this as a kid so we would northern Michigan. Skip, I'm sure you know this, man. The further north you go, the colder the lakes get, and when you get up to Lake Superior, it's all glacier fed. Oh my God, I remember getting out of that water and your whole skin, your whole body would feel like it was vibrating. You know what I mean? From the warmth, everything would flush. And you kind of get like a rush from that almost after getting out of the cold water. My parents wouldn't swim, and they'd be like, oh, no. When you get older, you get more sensitive to cold. Now I'm thinking to myself, there's no way in hell I'm getting in Lake Superior, you know?
Well, don't you think as you get older, I think they're right. I think as you get older, you become a lot more sensitive to things like temperature change.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're a kid, you don't mind that it's 120 degrees and humid out. You'll go out and play ball and do whatever with your buddies for an hour and a half, dripping sweat, and you'll just pay the consequences later by eating a bunch of popsicles and whatever else is in the freezer.
And now you're like, is this gym 70 degrees? Because if it's any hotter than that, I'm not training today.
Yeah. Age makes me sensitive to everything. I cry watching Field of Dreams now. That never happened when I was 20. I don't know. I watch Titanic. I've seen it 40 times. I'm like, that bitch won't let him up on that thing. There's plenty of room.
I am kind of pissed about that.
Problem. I know.
I thought there was room too.
I never saw it, but I agree. All right. Well, let me see what else we have here then. I know we had a fun one that I was going to save for the next show, but we did have a fun one here that we could probably wrap this episode on, and then we'll do our next episode. This is from Lance. It's an important question because it is from Patreon, and all of our Patreon questions are important. So it starts like this. You'll know how important it is from the first part of the line. You've been abducted by aliens, and they're going to feed you with only one type of shake forever. Your only job is to live in an alien zoo and stay in shape. You can have any ingredients in any type of blender, but it's one type of shake only forever. You've got to get water, subs, drugs, medical gear, etc. But you get all those things, but your only food is this shake. How do you design this shake? Number one. And number two, can you maintain your current fitness with this one shake in unlimited amounts? Skip, what would you be able to do with the Team Skip blend? Assuming that's your answer.
So yeah, it probably would be.
Wait, isn't that what
assuming
you have that? We could try that with you now. You have enough Team Skip at home. We could just.
I've got a lot.
The next 6 months, Team Skip only.
I'm getting to that level where I start giving it away for silly little contests online, 5 pounds at a time. So I'm hoping that True Nutrition actually likes that, because it would probably be good for promotional marketing things for them. But anyway, gosh, what would I put in? I don't know. I mean, I'd probably okay. Do I have to use a protein? Not that my protein is bad, but I'm saying, do I have to use a protein?
You need
powder?
protein, though. You need protein,
but I mean,
right?
I can blend up
Chicken?
Can you cook stuff? Because I'd cook eggs and blend them up.
I don't-
At least that's a food versus a protein
like chicken.
powder.
You can
But
put chicken in there too, even, you know.
yeah, but chicken, you know what? That is one of the last foods that I would want to eat if I had to eat the same thing every day. I already hate it as it is.
Did you guys
I
ever
would
try
rather
a
eat
chicken
egg white.
shake or a tuna shake? I want to ask you that first.
Tuna
Either of
shake,
you.
yeah.
Tuna shake?
Oh yeah,
Andrew, never?
I
Was
did
it
once.
Was it with the like Pepsi, Diet,
Oh, I tried
Diet
once.
Coke? Did you guys do the Diet Coke and tuna fish
I
shake?
can't remember, but it was carbonated. I can't remember but it was absolutely horrendous and awful. And I'm from the 80s. We had horrible protein powder back then. The
Yeah.
supplements were garbage. I mean, I've had some
Oof.
pretty bad things in my time, but that is just not something. In fact, I'll be honest, if I had to eat tuna from a can still to this day, I call
Yeah.
it poor man's protein. I would just quit bodybuilding
You quit altogether?
I'm not doing it. I would eat ahi. I eat ahi, center cut ahi at
Yeah.
$44 a pound.
Right.
In my poke bowl. Yeah, I'll do that. But not from a can. I refuse. I've had too much in my lifetime when I was young and poor, and it's just horrendously awful tasting stuff. So never again.
Yeah. What's this?
So I don't know. I mean, I'd put a fat in there. I'd put a walnut, maybe a walnut oil, and either cooked eggs or Team Skip blend. And then, obviously, I'd put some vegetables in there because I can stomach vegetables if I can drink them instead of eat them. And for what it's worth, I don't know about you guys. I don't eat. I'm going to go on record and I'm going to say it. I'm going to be completely transparent. I don't eat vegetables during the week. I add vegetables to my poke bowls. And I get them in there. I do not eat them during the week. They bloat me. They mess with my guts. They make me farty. They do all the gross things to me that make me look pregnant. I don't want them. I don't eat them until it's poke bowl day. And then I would add some type of carb, whether it would be, I don't know, probably rice. You know what? Probably maybe sweet potato or something like that. Some type of thing that way. I don't know. It's off the top of my head. So what would you guys do?
I'm not drinking chicken or tuna or anything. So
Yeah.
I would probably just do like a chocolate protein with oat powder with almond or peanut butter, very basic. Because, well, here's the thing. I think a lot of our taste and texture mechanisms are tied together, meaning we know a chicken is solid. We know a piece of fish is solid. So it's supposed to have some chew factor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Right.
it doesn't, it confuses our brain into like, get it out of me as quick as possible. Right. I really do believe that. So, because think about this, let's say you're eating a piece of chicken somewhere and you chew into it and it's a little different. You instantly know, like, this isn't real
gristly.
chicken. This is one of those manufactured or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't like when you
chickens
bite
where
into like a tendon. That grosses me out. I don't like the tendons.
But at least it's a real tendon. It's not like chicken meal refabricated into the size of a chicken breast. You know what I mean? Like how they make salami or how they make some of those other fake meats.
Yeah.
So I think the texture factor and what you're expecting is the main factor on why it's like,
You know what though? So when I did the chicken shake, it was just chicken in water, chicken breast in water, cooked obviously. I at first I was kind of grossed out by the idea, but then I was like, oh, this is like chicken broth. Like I can drink chicken broth, but there's texture to it because it's kind of
Okay, how about this? How about a pudding or like a not a stew, but okay. Do you remember? I think I mentioned this before. Do you guys remember Trevor Smith?
Oh yeah.
Metabolic
Nuclear nutrition.
Nuclear nutrition. Yeah. So his thing, I was reading, because he was 400 pounds.
Yeah.
He was an animal. And for him to get his food in, he would use a food processor where he'd put like 10 chicken breasts in, a couple cans of cream of mushroom or cream of onion soup, and then I think rice, and it would blend it all together. And he would weigh out, these 1.5 pound meals and just eat it like a porridge, 6 times a day. And that was how he gained all that size. I could do that like that, but drinking it, it's like, no way.
These are always the pictures you see of Trevor Smith, guy like next to Jay or Ronnie. Remember those shirts, Skip? Did you ever have one of those shirts? What were they?
They're still around in the swinger lifestyle, just not in bodybuilding anymore. My swinger friends wear shirts like that to this day.
I remember seeing him leg press with like a full leg press, and then had like this extra long 45-pound bar that he draped over it and had like loaded that thing up with 45-pound plates and was like leg pressing that. And someone had to hold it there so it didn't roll back and forth. Like the dude was strong, like super strong.
There he is with a jacked Dave Palumbo.
Yeah.
And Jimmy the Bull. Man, I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to be boring. But I'll tell you what, if I drink too many shakes, I feel like I lose my appetite. I'll drink a shake and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I could, not eat for the next 5 hours. And then I eat like 2 ounces of chicken and 2 ounces of rice. And 10 seconds later, I'm like, I need more of that,
Yeah. Well, and it wouldn't help with digestion, let's be fair. Because digestion starts in the mouth. So if you're just bypassing that first initial digestion point.
What if you're using like a whey hydro? Because this is a form of I do this elemental diet with people that have extreme cases of SIBO and some other digestive issues where I want to get the food to its most pre-digested or broken down state. So we use like either casein hydrolysate or like a whey hydro, and then we use maltodextrin and MCT oil, and they'll be on that diet for about 4 weeks straight, like 4 meals a day, 4 shakes. And the feedback I get from that, at first they're like, oh dude, I don't know if I could do this. But after day 2, they're like, this is actually so simple. Like I don't even think about food. I could care less about eating food. I kind of want to do this for the rest of my life. So
but that's not blending up. I'm saying like blending up food, like blending up a chicken breast or something, or or something like that. You're kind of missing that first stage. You make a good point, because those things you just mentioned, they don't necessarily have to be broken down or start to be broken down in the mouth. They just need to get to your gut. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Scott, you like those digestive enzymes over betaine HCl? So the enzyme I use, which is Now Foods Super Enzymes, it has betaine in it. So it has protein, amylase, lipase, plus some other good stuff in it. Plus it has a lower dose of betaine. So usually you get like 500, 600 betaine per cap, and this has 200. So you get kind of a little bit of everything. And if you needed more betaine, you could always add it in. That'd be my thought. It's not a versus. It's not a versus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say this isn't an either or type thing, because they have separate functions where related to digestion. But the other thing to point out is that your betaine HCl, you want to make sure it has pepsin with it as well. So
All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. And for anybody who is new here, let me encourage you, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and everybody who is subscribed, hit the bell if you haven't hit the bell already. I think you have to like turn notifications on at YouTube too. It's not going to notify you when you're sleeping. It's going to let you know when we put a new podcast out, and that's really about it. And leave us questions for the next episode, of course. You can hit these guys up for coaching. You can go to teamskip.com. You can reach out to Skip there. You can go to bodyberry.com. You can reach out to Andrew. Say hello. You can hit me up, McNallyDiets@gmail.com. And thank you to TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there, and supplementsource.ca for Canadians. And of course, thank you to everybody from Patreon. I think we have some Patreon questions for the next episode. Leave us questions on YouTube for the next episode. Plus, the like button. It's huge. It lets other people know that, this stuff is worth watching. We appreciate you guys. If you enjoy us, then you can help us by hitting that button and leaving us a comment, guys. For another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we'll see you soon.